The crowd roared like thunder across the massive arena. Thousands of aliens from every corner of the galaxy filled the seats, their voices mixing into one loud sound that shook the metal walls. The Dominion Coliseum was the biggest fighting arena in known space, and today was special. Today the apex predator would fight again. Mingy pressed her face against the cold metal bars of her cell. She could see the arena floor far below was covered in sand that had turned dark red from years of blood. The walls were tall and smooth, with no way to climb out. Giant screens showed the faces of fighters who had died here. There were hundreds of them. "Look at the little human," said a voice behind her. Mingy turned to see Gorak, a huge alien with gray skin and 4 arms. He was twice her height and had teeth like broken glass. "She thinks she can survive down there." Other prisoners laughed. There were 12 of them in this cell, all waiting for their turn to fight. Most were big and strong, with claws or sharp teeth or thick armor on their skin. Mingy looked small next to them. She was just a human girl, barely 20 years old, wearing a torn blue jumpsuit from her old job. "Humans are weak," said another prisoner. This one looked like a giant insect with black eyes. "They have no claws, no armor, no poison." "They are. Just meet Mingy," said nothing. She had learned to stay quiet during her 3 weeks in this place. The guards hit prisoners who talked too much, but she listened to everything. She watched everything. That was how humans stayed alive. The arena floor opened with a loud grinding sound. A platform rose up from below, carrying 2 fighters. One was a red alien with 6 legs and a tail covered in spikes. The other was green and had arms like tree branches. Both were huge and looked ready to kill. "Fight," shouted the announcer. His voice came from speakers all around the arena. "Spiketail versus Tree Arms. Only one will live." The 2 aliens crashed into each other. The red one tried to stab with his tail, but the green one grabbed it with his branch arms. They rolled across the sand, hitting and clawing. The crowd cheered louder. Mingy watched carefully. She saw how the red alien moved his tail. She saw how the green one used his long arms. She remembered everything. Other prisoners just watched for fun, but Mingy watched to learn. Her life would depend on what she learned. The fight ended when the green alien broke the red one's neck. The crowd cheered as the winner raised his arms. The loser's body was dragged away by small robots. More blood soaked into the sand. "Next fight," called the announcer. "Humans versus Rock Beast." Mingy's blood turned cold. She looked at the other prisoners. They were all looking at her now. "Did he say human?" asked Gorak. "Just one human?" Cell door opened with a bang. 2 guards walked in. They were tall and wore black armor that covered their whole bodies. Nobody knew what they looked like under the armor. "Human girl," said one guard. His voice sounded like metal scraping metal. "Come." Mingy's legs felt weak, but she walked to the guards. She had no choice. The other prisoners watched her go. Some looked sorry for her. Others looked happy that it was not them. The guards took her down a long hallway. The walls were covered with pictures of past champions. Most looked like monsters, with too many teeth. At the end of the hallway was a big door marked Arena Entrance. "Wait here," said the guard. He pushed a button on the wall. "You fight in 5 minutes." Mingy sat on a metal bench. Her hands were shaking. She thought about her old life, working on space stations, fixing machines. She thought about her family back on Earth. They probably thought she was dead. The door across from her opened. Another fighter walked out. This one was huge, even bigger than the ones in her cell. He had rock-like skin and arms as thick as tree trunks. His eyes glowed red, and steam came out of his nose. This was a rock beast. The rock beast looked at Mingy and laughed. It sounded like rocks falling down a mountain. "They send me a tiny human girl," he said. His voice was deep and slow. "This is not a fight, this is a joke." "Maybe," said Mingy. She stood up and looked at him. "Maybe not." The rock beast laughed again. "You have no claws, no armor, no size. What can you do against me?" Mingy did not answer. She was thinking about what she had seen in the other fights. She was thinking about how the creatures moved, how they attacked, how they made mistakes. "I will make your death quick," said the rock beast. "You seem brave for such a small thing." The arena door opened. Bright light poured in, along with the sound of the crowd. The announcer's voice boomed across the space. "Citizens of the galaxy, today we have a special treat. Fresh from the outer colonies, we bring you a human. These creatures are new to our arena, and we want to see what they can do." The crowd made different sounds. Some cheered, others booed. Many just sounded confused. Facing our human is Stonecrush, the mighty rock beast, has won 15 fights and crushed the bones of his enemies. Can this small human survive even one minute against him? Minji walked into the arena. The sand was hot under her feet. The sun was bright overhead. All around her, thousands of aliens looked down from their seats. She had never felt so small and alone. Stonecrush followed her in. He was even bigger in the bright light. His rock skin looked harder than metal. His red eyes focused on her like a hunter looking at prey. "Gin!" shouted the announcer. Stonecrush charged at Minji like a mountain falling down. His huge fists came down where she had been standing, but she was not there anymore. I had rolled to the side, just like she had practiced when she was young. Crowd gasped. Nobody expected the human to move so fast. Minji looked up at Stonecrush. He was strong and big, but she had something he did not have. She had a human brain. Human brains were made for solving problems. The real fight was about to begin. Stonecrush's fist hit the sand where Minji had been standing. The impact made a hole as deep as her arm. Sand flew everywhere like tiny bullets. The crowd made surprised sounds. She moved. Someone shouted from the seats. Minji rolled again as the rock beast's other fist came down. She was fast, but not fast enough. A piece of flying rock cut her cheek. Blood ran down her face, but she kept moving. Stonecrush turned to face her. His red eyes burned with anger. "Stop running, little human. Fight me." "I am fighting," Minji said. She wiped blood from her cheek. "You just don't understand how." The rock beast charged again. This time, Minji did something different. Instead of rolling away, she ran straight at him. The crowd gasped. It looked like she was going to run right into his massive fists at the last second. Minji dropped to her knees and slid under Stonecrush's legs. The sand was slippery, and she moved, like she was sliding on ice. She came up behind him and grabbed a handful of loose sand. Stonecrush spun around, but Minji threw the sand right into his glowing red eyes. He roared and stepped back, rubbing his face with his huge hands. "My eyes, you cheating little rat." "No cheating," Minji said. "Just thinking." While Stonecrush was blind, Minji looked around the arena. There were broken pieces of metal from old fights scattered in the sand. She picked up a sharp piece about as long as her hand. It was not much, but it was better than nothing. Stonecrush cleared his eyes and saw her holding the metal piece. He laughed. "You think that tiny thing can hurt me? My skin is harder than your metal." He was probably right. But Minji had noticed something during the fight. Every time Stonecrush moved, she heard a small creaking sound. His rock armor was not perfect. There were gaps where the pieces met. The rock beast charged again. This time, Minji waited until he was very close. She jumped to the side and stabbed the metal piece into the gap behind his knee. It was a small target, but she hit it perfectly. Stonecrush screamed and fell to one knee. Green blood poured from the wound. The crowd went wild. "Impossible," shouted the announcer. "The human has wounded the rock beast." Minji did not stop to celebrate. She knew she had made Stonecrush angry, and angry fighters made mistakes. She grabbed more sand and threw it at his face again. Then she ran to the other side of the arena. Stonecrush got up and chased her, but now he was limping. The wound in his knee made him slower. Minji led him around the arena, making him chase her in circles. The crowd started to cheer for her. "Run, little human!" some aliens shouted. "Make him tired." After 5 minutes of running, Stonecrush was breathing hard. His rock skin was covered in sweat, and his red eyes were not glowing as bright. Minji was tired too, but she was used to running. Humans were good at running for long distances. "Stand still and fight," Stonecrush yelled. "Stop running like a scared mouse." "Why?" Minji asked. "You are slower now." You are tired. You are bleeding. Why would I change what is working? The rock beast roared and threw a big piece of rock at her. Minji dodged it, but just barely. The rock hit the arena wall and broke in two pieces. Some of the pieces were sharp and pointed. Minji picked up the sharpest piece. It was longer than her metal piece and had a better point. She tested its weight in her hand. It would work. Stone Crush was getting desperate. Her again, but this time he was sloppy. His wounded knee made him unsteady. Mingi waited until he was close. Then she did something that surprised everyone. She threw her new weapon like a spear right at his good knee. The sharp rock went deep into the gap in his armor. Stone Crush fell forward, both knees now bleeding. He could not get up. The crowd was silent. Nobody could believe what they had seen. Minji walked over to where Stone Crush was lying. He was still alive, but he could not fight anymore. In the arena, that meant he was defeated. How? He whispered. How did you beat me? I am 10 times stronger than you. You are stronger, Minji agreed. But I am smarter, and I think faster. That is what humans do, the announcer's voice came over the speakers, but he sounded confused. The winner is the human girl. Stone Crush is defeated. Half the crowd cheered. The other half booed. Nobody had expected the human to win. Guards came to take Minji back to her cell. She walked off the arena floor. She looked up at the VIP section. That was where the important people sat. She saw aliens in expensive clothes, some with golden jewelry, others with crowns on their heads. In the center of the VIP section sat a huge chair made of black metal. In the chair was the biggest alien Minji had ever seen. He was twice as tall as a human and covered in dark green scales. His eyes were yellow and cold. On his head was a crown that looked like it was made of bones. This was Vexstar, the apex predator, the champion of the arena, the ruler of this place. Vexstar was looking right at her. His yellow eyes showed no emotion. He was not impressed by her victory. He was not worried. He was just watching. Minji looked back at him for a moment. Then she nodded her head slightly like she was saying hello. Vexstar did not move. He just kept staring. Back in her cell, the other prisoners looked at her differently now. Before, they had thought she was just a weak human who would die quickly. Now they knew she was dangerous. How did you do it? Asked Gorok, the four-armed. Alien Stone Crush was 3 times your size. I watched, Minji said. I learned. I adapted. But humans are supposed to be weak, said the insect-like alien. Everyone knows that. Minji sat on her small bed and looked at her hands. They were cut and dirty, but they were steady. Maybe everyone is wrong about humans. That night Minji could not sleep. She kept thinking about Vexstar's yellow eyes. She knew that if she kept winning fights, she would eventually have to face him. He was the champion. He was the strongest fighter in the galaxy. But Mingi had learned something important today. Being the strongest did not always mean winning. Sometimes, being the smartest was better. She closed her eyes and started planning. If she was going to survive in this place, she would need to learn everything she could about fighting. She would need to study every opponent, find their weaknesses, and use her human brain to stay alive. The arena had seen its first human victory, but Minji knew this was just the beginning. The real challenges were still coming. And somewhere in his dark tower above the arena, Vexstar was probably thinking about her too. 2 weeks passed. Mingi won 4 more fights. Her second fight was against a blue alien with electric powers. He could shoot lightning from his hands, but Mingi found a piece of metal that conducted the electricity away from her body. It like a lightning rod and defeated him when his own power backfired. Her third fight was against a creature that looked like a giant spider. It was fast and had poison fangs, but Minji noticed it was afraid of fire. She used friction to make sparks with 2 rocks and drove it into a corner where it surrendered. Her fourth fight was against twins who fought together. They were connected by their minds and could predict each other's moves perfectly. But they could not predict Minji's moves because human thinking was different from theirs. She confused them by doing things that made no sense, then struck when they were trying to understand her strategy. Her fifth fight was against a metal robot that seemed impossible to hurt. But Minji remembered her engineering training. She found the robot's power source and removed one small wire. The robot shut down instantly. Each victory made the crowd more excited. Aliens who had never heard of humans before were now cheering. For the small girl who won fights with her brain instead of her muscles. But not everyone was happy about Minji's success. In the VIP section, Vexstar watched every fight. His yellow eyes followed Minji's every move. Other aliens in the VIP section talked about her, but Vexstar said nothing. He just watched and learned. "She is getting too much attention," said Lord Krex, a fat alien with purple skin and golden rings on his fingers. "Crowd loves her more than they love your fights." Vexstar's claws gripped the arms of his throne. "She is just a human, a weak creature from a weak planet." "A weak creature who has won 5 fights," said another alien. "The betting pools are changing. Some people think she might actually reach the semifinals." "Impossible," Vexstar growled. "No human can defeat the champions of the galaxy." But even as he said it, Vexstar felt something he had not felt in 7 years. Doubt. This human was different from other fighters. She did not rely on strength or speed or natural weapons. She used something else, something that made his victories look simple and brutal. Down in the preparation area, Minji was studying fight recordings on a datapad she had stolen from a guard. She watched how other fighters moved, how they attacked, how they defended. She made notes in her head about their weaknesses. "Human girl," said a voice behind her. Minji turned around. Standing there was Jaeon, another human prisoner. He had arrived at the arena 3 days ago and had not fought yet. He was older than Minji, maybe 30, with short black hair and worried eyes. "You should not be doing so well," he said quietly. "You are making the champions angry." "I'm just trying to stay alive," Minji replied. "Same as you." Jaeon sat down next to her. "I heard about your fights. You were smart. But being smart might not be enough against what comes next." "What do you mean? The semifinals are different. Fighters there are not just strong. They are killers. They have fought for years and survived hundreds of battles. And if you somehow reach the finals... ... He shook his head. "Vexstar has never been defeated? Never." Minji looked at her datapad. On the screen was a recording of Vexstar's last fight. He had killed his opponent in less than 10 seconds. His claws had torn through metal armor like it was paper. "Maybe," she said, "but everyone thought Stonecrush would kill me in 10 seconds too." "Stonecrush was strong but stupid," Jaeon said. "Vexstar is strong and smart. He has been champion. For 7 years, he knows every trick, every strategy. He has fought every type of alien in the galaxy. But he has never fought a human," Minji said quietly. That night, Minji's next opponent was announced. She would fight Bone Crusher, a champion from the Warrior Moon. He had won 50 fights and never lost. He was known for breaking his opponents' bones one by one before killing them. The other prisoners went quiet when they heard the announcement. Even Gorok, who was normally loud and brave, said nothing. "No one has ever survived fighting Bone Crusher," whispered one of the aliens. "Likes to make his opponents suffer." Minji spent the night thinking about how to defeat someone who was famous for breaking bones. She came up with 3 different strategies, but all of them were dangerous. The next morning, guards came to take her to the arena. But instead of going to the fighter entrance, they took her to the preparation area under the VIP section. This was where the most important fighters got ready for their matches. The room was bigger and cleaner than the prisoner areas. There were weapons on the walls and armor on stands. At the far end of the room was a door marked Champion's Quarters. Minji was looking at the weapons when she heard heavy footsteps behind her. She turned around and saw Vexstar walking toward her. Up close, he was even more frightening than he looked from the arena. His scales were dark green and looked harder than metal. His claws were as long as kitchen knives. His yellow eyes stared at her like she was already dead. "So you are the human everyone is talking about," he said. His voice was deep and cold, like ice breaking. "I am just trying to survive," Minji said. She kept her voice steady, but inside she was scared. Vexstar walked around her in a circle, looking at her from all angles. "You were small, weak, fragile. How do you keep winning?" "I think before I act," Minji said. "I find weaknesses. I adapt, Thinking Vexstar said the word like it tasted bad. Real warriors do not need to think. They fight with strength and courage. They defeat their enemies with power. That works too, Minji said, but my way also works. Vexstar stopped in front of her. His yellow eyes burned with anger. Your way is cowardly. You run and hide and use tricks. You are not a real fighter. I win, Minji said simply. That is what matters here. For a moment, Vexstar said nothing. Then he did something that shocked everyone in the room. He raised his massive hand and slapped Minji across the face. The slap was not meant to seriously hurt her. In Vexstar's culture, it was a way to show dominance over someone weaker. It was like saying, "You are nothing compared to me." He did not understand human psychology. He did not know that humans had spent millions of years fighting for survival on a dangerous planet. He did not know that when humans were threatened, something deep inside them woke up. Minji's head snapped to the side from the slap. Her cheek turned red and started to swell. For a moment, she stood perfectly still. Then she turned her head back. To look at Vexstar, her eyes had changed. They were no longer the eyes of a scared prisoner trying to survive. They were the eyes of a predator who had just been challenged. "Big mistake," she said quietly. Everyone in the room felt the change in the air. Even the guards stepped back. They did not understand what was happening, but they knew something was wrong. Vexstar realized his error too late. He'd wanted to show dominance over the human. Instead, he had awakened something that had been sleeping inside her, something very dangerous. The room was silent. Everyone stared at Minji and Vexstar. The guards, the servants, even the other fighters who had been watching from the corners, they all felt that something had changed. Minji touched her swollen cheek. Her fingers came away. With a small drop of blood, she looked at the blood for a moment, then looked back at Vexstar. "You hit me," she said. Her voice was very quiet, but everyone heard it. Vexstar smiled, showing his sharp teeth. "I showed you your place, little human. You are weak. You are nothing. You should remember that." "I will remember," Minji said. "I will remember this moment for the rest of my life." There's something in her voice made the guards nervous. They had heard that tone before from the most dangerous fighters. It was the sound of someone who had decided to kill. Vexstar did not notice the change. He was too proud, too sure of his power. "Good. Now you understand. I am the apex predator. I am the champion. You are just a small human who will die in the arena like all the others." "Maybe," Minji said, "but not today." What happened next took 3 seconds. Later, people would argue about exactly what they saw. Some said Minji moved faster than seemed possible. Others said she seemed to disappear and reappear. But everyone agreed on one thing: they had never seen anything like it. Minji exploded into motion. Not fast like a cat or quick like a bird, but with the sudden violence of a lightning strike. Her body moved with a precision that came from millions of years of human evolution. The instinct to survive. To fight to win when cornered, she stepped forward and drove her elbow into Vexstar's solar plexus. The champion was wearing armor, but Minji hit exactly where the armor plates connected. The impact drove the air from his lungs and bent him forward as he doubled over. Minji grabbed his massive head with both hands. She used his own momentum against him, pulling his head down while driving her knee upward. The knee connected with his jaw with a crack that echoed through the room. Vexstar's head snapped back, Blood sprayed from his mouth. Two of his sharp teeth flew through the air and landed on the floor. But Minji was not finished. While Vexstar was stunned, she grabbed one of his arms and twisted it behind his back. She applied pressure to a joint that existed in most humanoid species, a weak point she had learned about from studying anatomy. Vexstar screamed in pain and surprise.
Ow.
His arm was bent at an angle that looked wrong.
Ow.
The sound he made was not the roar of a proud champion. It was the cry of someone who was hurt and confused. "Impossible," whispered one of the guards. "He is the apex predator. He cannot be beaten." Minji twisted the arm a little more. Vexstar dropped to one knee, gasping for breath. His yellow eyes were wide with shock and pain. "You want to know the difference between us?" Minji said. Her voice was calm now, almost conversational. "You grew up thinking you were the strongest. You never had to learn to fight smart because you were always bigger than everyone else." She increased the pressure on his arm. Vexstar tried to stand, but the pain kept him down. "But humans," Minji continued, "we grew up on a planet full of things that wanted to kill us. Big things, fast things, strong things. We learned to survive by being smarter, faster, and more vicious than anything else." Vexstar tried to swing his free arm at her, but Minji was ready. She ducked under the swing and drove her fist into his ribs. The punch was not as strong as his would have been, but it was perfectly placed. She hit a nerve cluster that sent lightning through his body. "We learned to turn our weaknesses into strengths," she said. "We learned to use our enemy's power against them. We learned to never give up, no matter how hopeless things looked." Vexstar was breathing hard now. His armor was cracked in several places. His proud posture was gone. He looked like what he was, a fighter who had been beaten by someone he thought was weak. "You made one mistake," Minji said. She released his arm and stepped back. "You thought being human made me weak. Being human made me something else." Vexstar slowly stood up. His legs were shaking. Blood dripped from his mouth onto the floor. "What?" he gasped. "What did it make you?" Minji looked at him with eyes that were no longer afraid, unpredictable. She moved again, but this time Vexstar was ready. He swung his massive fist at her. Head. The punch would have killed her if it connected. But it did not connect. Minji dropped to the floor and swept his legs. Vexstar, already unsteady, fell backward. As he fell, Minji rolled forward and came up next to his head. She grabbed his throat with one hand and pressed her thumb against his windpipe. "I could kill you right now," she said quietly. "One little push, and the great apex predator would be dead." Vexstar tried to speak, but could not. His eyes were wide with fear, an emotion he had not felt in years. "But I won't," Minji said, "because I am not a killer. I am a survivor. There is a difference." She released his throat and stood up. Vexstar gasped for air, his hand going to his neck. The room was completely silent. Everyone stared at the scene in shock. The unbeatable champion was lying on the floor, beaten by a human girl who was half his size. "Guards," Vexstar croaked. Kill her now." The guards looked at each other. They had seen what Minji could do. They had seen her defeat their champion in less than a minute. None of them wanted to be the first to attack her. "I would not do that," said a new voice. Everyone turned to see Lord Crex, the fat alien with purple skin, walking into the room. Behind him were several official-looking aliens wearing fancy robes. "What happens here today will be remembered across the galaxy," Lord Crex said. "The human has challenged the champion and won. By the laws of the arena, she now has the right to claim his title." No, Vexstar struggled to sit up. She cheated. She used tricks. She is not a real fighter. "She won," Lord Crex said simply. "That is all that matters in the arena." Minji looked around the room. Every face was staring at her. Some looked afraid. Others looked amazed. A few looked angry. "I don't want to be champion," she said. "I just want to go home." "Too late for that." Lord Crex smiled. "You have defeated the apex predator. The galaxy is watching. You are famous now, whether you want to be or not." Minji looked down at Vexstar, who was still on the floor. "What happens to him?" "He lives," Lord Crex said. "But he is no longer champion. That title belongs to you now. Vexstar's face twisted with rage and shame. This is not over, human. We'll have my revenge. Maybe, Minji said, but not today. She walked toward the door, stepping over the fallen champion. Next time you want to show dominance over someone, she said, make sure you understand what you are dealing with first. Then she walked out of the room, leaving the former apex predator on the floor behind her. The galaxy would never be the same. News of Minji's victory spread across the galaxy faster than light. Within hours, every space station, every colony, every alien world knew the same impossible story. A human girl had defeated the apex predator. The unbeatable champion who had ruled the arena for 7 years was beaten by someone who weighed less than his arm. On Earth, humans gathered around communication screens in amazement. For the first time, their species was famous in the galaxy for something other than being weak. Did you see the recording? Asked Soyeon, a young woman watching the news in Seoul. She moved so fast the cameras could barely follow her. I heard she used some kind of human fighting technique, said her friend Minho, something the aliens had never seen before. No, said an older man named Dongmin. She just did what humans do. She survived. In the arena, everything had changed. Minji sat in the champion's quarters, looking at the massive throne that was now supposedly hers. It was made of black metal and decorated with the bones of defeated fighters. She did not want to sit in it. Lord Krex entered the room with several other officials. You must make an appearance, he said. The crowd is waiting to see their new champion. I told you I don't want to be champion, Minji said. I just want to go home. That is not how this works, Lord Krex explained. You defeated Vexstar in front of witnesses. By galactic law, you are now the apex predator. You cannot simply walk away. Watch me, Minji said. She stood up and walked toward the door. Wait, Lord Krex called. If you leave now, they will send hunters after you. The arena's owners will not let their new attraction escape. You are too valuable. Minji stopped. What do you mean? You're the first human to ever become champion, Lord Krex said. People across the galaxy want to see you fight. They want to understand how you defeated Vexstar. You could make the arena owners more money than any fighter in history. And if I refuse, they will capture you and force you to fight anyway. But they will also capture other humans to use against you. Your friend Jayan, for example, and any other humans they can find. Minji felt anger rising in her chest. They would hurt innocent people just to control me? Welcome to the galaxy, Lord Krex said sadly. This is how things work here. It's a strong take what they want from the weak. Then I will change how things are. Work, Mingi said. She walked back to the throne and sat down. The metal was cold against her back, but she forced herself to stay upright. If she had to be champion, she would be champion on her own terms. Bring me the arena rules, she said. All of them. I want to know exactly what power a champion has. Lord Krex smiled. Now, you are thinking like a leader. An hour later, Minji walked into the arena. The crowd went wild when they saw her. Aliens, who had never cheered for a human before, were shouting her name. Others booed and threw things at her. The noise was deafening. Citizens of the galaxy, called the announcer. I present to you your new apex predator, the human who defeated the unbeatable, the girl who changed everything. Minji walked to the center of the arena. She looked small under the bright lights, but she did not look afraid. The crowd slowly grew quiet, waiting to hear what she would say. I am Minji of Earth, she said. Her voice carried clearly through. The arena's speakers, I did not ask to be here. I did not want to fight, but I was forced to, and I survived. Some aliens in the crowd nodded. They understood survival. Vexstar ruled this arena through fear and strength, Minji continued. He killed anyone who challenged him. He made you believe that only the biggest and strongest could win. The crowd was completely silent now, but I am not the biggest or strongest here. I am probably the smallest and weakest, yet I stand before you as champion. Do you know why? She paused and looked around the arena. Strength is not just about muscles and claws and teeth. Real strength comes from here. She pointed to her head. And here, she pointed to her heart. From never giving up, from adapting, from learning, from helping each other. In the VIP section, powerful aliens shifted uncomfortably. They did not like where this speech was going. As your new champion, I am making new rules, Mingi announced. First, no more fights to the death. Defeated fighters will be allowed to live and learn from their mistakes. The crowd erupted in surprised voices. Second, fighters will be allowed to form teams and help each other train. We will learn from each other instead of just trying to kill each other. Third, any fighter who wants to leave the arena can challenge me for their freedom, if they can. Last 5 minutes against me without giving up, they go free. Lord Krex looked shocked. You cannot do this. The arena owners will never allow it. They will allow it, Minji said, because I am the champion, and the champion draws the crowds. Without me, they have nothing. She turned back to the crowd. This arena has always been about proving who is strongest. But I am going to prove something different. I am going to prove that intelligence, courage, and cooperation are stronger than fangs and claws. In the crowd, some aliens were cheering. Others looked confused. A few looked angry. Any fighter who wants to challenge these new rules can face me in the arena, Mingi said. But remember, if you fight me, you are not just fighting one small human. You are fighting millions of years of human evolution. You are fighting a species that survived by being smarter and more determined than everything that tried to kill. She smiled, and for the first time her smile looked dangerous, and humans are very, very good at surviving. The crowd exploded into noise. Some aliens cheered, others booed, and many just sat in stunned silence. In his private room, Vexstar watched the speech on a screen. His face was bandaged, and his arm was in a sling. His yellow eyes burned with hatred. She thinks she has one, he growled to himself. But this is not over. I will have my revenge. But even as he said it, Vexstar felt something he had never felt before: doubt. The human had defeated him easily. She had made him look weak in front of the entire galaxy. Now she was changing everything he had built. Maybe she really was stronger than him. Maybe humans really were more dangerous than anyone had imagined. On Earth, humans everywhere were celebrating. For the first time, their species was respected in the galaxy. They were no longer seen as weak prey. They were seen as something new and powerful. In the arena, Minji walked back to the champion's quarters. She had work to do. There were rules to change, fighters to train, and a galaxy to show that strength came in many forms. The age of the apex predator was over. The age of human ingenuity had begun. And across the galaxy, other species were starting to ask themselves a very important question. If one small human girl could do all this, what could humanity do when they worked together? The answer to that question would change everything.